Let's bring in Ken Wiebe now, and you guys tell me when Sean Reynolds is ready. Contributor to Sportsnet.ca. Ken, good to see you again, my friend. And can we start here? Why does Winnipeg want Paul Maurice fired? The fans. That's what I heard all weekend. This is nuts to me.
Yeah, Rod, great to see you as well. Obviously, I have some great Regina roots. Always a pleasure to speak with you. It's a question that I get a lot on the old social media channels, and I don't agree with it for 1 second. I think one of the things that Sean and I have been trying to show people when we're having them on our show is how well respected Paul Maurice is outside the market, and that goes across the NHL. So we totally understand. Fans want to see more prospects. They want their young players to have that Connor Bedard effect right out of the gate, if you will. Paul, on his fourth line, historically likes to use veteran players, so that's one of their issues. They want more ice time for Nikolai Ehlers, even though he's at his most productive stage of his entire career. Even though part of that is Nikolai Ehlers being used against players that he can have a lot of success at. And again, I'm a proponent for more for Nikolai Ehlers. He's earning more. But when you're playing every other day, essentially, when you have a player of Nikolai Ehlers' build, you need to be able to protect him in a certain point as well. So I think Paul Maurice is doing an excellent job. That's not to say coaches are not without their warts, but I mean, one of the questions going into this year, would the Jets be able to improve their power play? Well, they're currently 7th in the National Hockey League, and that's without one of their biggest weapons in Patrick Laine. So I think Paul Maurice has done a very good job. But I think the problem for Jets fans is that all they see is the run to the Western Conference Final, and there have been some bumpy blocks since that point.
Wow. Well, I'm not done with this, but I think, Ken, you've kind of reasoned it. Oiler fans are like this. Rider fans are like this. I think they're just a little over the top here. So we'll come back. But Renny, the other half of the Kenny and Renny Show, I love you guys, Instagram Live. The question to Ken, Sean, I'll put it to you, is why are the Jets fans all over Paul Maurice? All I read all weekend is that they want him fired. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, for sports fans getting crazy. I mean, what's going on here? This never happens. I think what it is you take a look at that roster and it doesn't have a lot of holes, and it comes down to simply this. I mean, the Jets have performed under Paul Maurice. The fans that want him fired are the fans that just believe that they simply could be better than what we're seeing from them. And I think one of the things that leads to it is we've seen it in years past. We saw it earlier this year. We haven't seen it as much lately. But when the Jets seem to get to their game and play their game, they are absolutely dominant. And the feeling is with fans that when they see that, the Jets heading out and controlling play and just steamrolling teams and scoring at ease, they think that that's how it should be all the time. And they see that as the version of the Winnipeg Jets that should exist all the time. So they think there's a failing of leadership, of coaching that is keeping that team from being that dominant source all the time. And I mean, it's a debate. Maybe there's something to it. Maybe the Jets aren't, squeezing all the juice out of the orange at all times. Or maybe that's sports and that you can't be flying and absolutely on top of your game at all times. And is there a balance to be explored? Potentially. But I mean, the one thing I go back to all the time, and Ken and I talk about this, you take a look at all the Jets' best players, the ones that have been drafted and developed through the team, they've all seemed to have become the very best versions of themselves under Paul Maurice. And that's something I don't think you can ignore. And I think it's the reason why you get management and ownership who are extremely happy with Paul Maurice and the job that he's done.
Should be, and that's why I think it's awesome that Ken Cheveldayoff is the general manager, the pride of Blaine Lake, Saskatchewan. He's not going to buy into this. He's not going to be fooled by this. He knows exactly what he has, and that's a tremendous coach. And you can't red line all year. Just 56 games, yeah, I get isn't 82, but now I get it. Because I knew Winnipeg people knew hockey. I just think that the expectations are out of control. That's all, and that's not rare. Ken, back to you. They could use some help on the blue line. So do you think something's coming? And if I threw the name Tony DeAngelo out to you, would that be a possibility?
Yeah, no, not for me. I don't think Tony is at the top of the list. I did dive into this morning with our NHL trade deadline preview for the Jets. I think Matthias Ekholm's at the top of every wish list. I think another player to watch with some Saskatchewan roots of his own in terms of the family, Josh Manson, I think would be a perfect fit on that right side to potentially be a partner for Josh Morrissey. Yes, he's been limited, to 6 games this year with injury, but I think Manson has that great combination of mobility and physical play that would really help the Jets on the back end. I do think, they've pushed a lot of their chips into the middle with the Pierre-Luc Dubois, Patrick Laine deal. So I do think they're going to go out and get a top 4 defenseman to kind of round out their back end before we get to April 12th.
Where are you on that, Renny? What do you think the Jets are going to do? Because I like it. They're seeing they have a contender, but they're not there yet. What do you think they'll do?
Well, I think they need help at the very top of their defense core. So Ken had talked about Matthias Ekholm. We've talked about him. We've devoted a lot of our recent shows to him and the exploration of him. But I think they need to swing for the fences with this one. I think if you take a look at their roster, as I'd mentioned before, there really aren't a lot of holes at it. But the holes in this roster are at the very top of the defense core. Now, Ken and I and every other journalist in Winnipeg that's been covering this team over the last couple of years got a real good look at Matthias Ekholm while we were watching the National Predators compete against the Winnipeg Jets over the years. He is big. He is bad. He's got the right attitude. He can contribute offensively. He really can do it all, and he's exactly what they need. And one of those guys that I think if you get him into that spot in the lineup right near the very top, every guy that they have on that defense core kind of just shuffles down one little spot in responsibility and just fits a lot better. So, the Jets have been really good in years past at finding hidden value in players and bringing them in. And, Derek Forward's a perfect example of a guy that they brought in. They're getting him to do a specific thing, and that specific thing is working, and he's fitting in. I just don't think it's a case where you want to go and look for the guy who just fits in and does something specific that kind of works. I think you need the guy that works in all different scenarios, that can't miss guy. And with the players that they have, and Ken and I have talked about this, the window that we see them being in at this moment, I just don't think there's any more time to waste with the window. I think you got to pay the price to get the big guy on the market, and that would be Ekholm.
So you guys tonight got Vancouver in there, and my question to you, Ken, is I think it's going to be Winnipeg, Toronto, Edmonton, top 3. Just throw them in the air, see where they land. So the 4th is up to Montreal, Calgary, Vancouver. I'm not going to write down your answer and hold you to it. But who do you think will get the 4th spot?
Yeah, Rod, for me, it's okay. My answers were on paper in our Sportsnet predictions, and I had the Calgary Flames not only making the playoffs, but winning the division.
So did I!
That certainly hasn't been working out so far, but I wouldn't rule them out. But I think that Montreal is the team that will take that spot. I think if we're looking objectively, despite the coaching change, I think we've seen a lot of improvements from the Montreal Canadiens. And if they're not a team that went 0-9 in overtime this year, we'd be talking about the Montreal Canadiens being neck and neck for first place in the North. So I think the depth of their roster, and with Carey Price sort of rounding back into form, they're the team for me that is going to narrowly get in ahead of both Vancouver and Calgary, both of whom are capable. And we're seeing Bubble Demko again from the Canucks, and that's been the key to their resurgence. The Flames aren't out of, they're not out of it yet, but I do think that Montreal grabs that 4th spot. And if one of the teams would dip back, I would have said Edmonton, but man, Darnell Nurse is playing at a Norris Trophy caliber level, and the goaltending question marks that we had for them, they haven't really been an issue lately. And the way that they responded to that beatdown at the hands of the Leafs has been one of the most impressive stories in hockey.
Wow. Montreal. Got it, guys? I'm glad that you admitted that you picked Calgary, because so do I. And at least I'm not alone in that. And it's not over yet either, by the way, but it's not looking good. Renny, who's your 4th team in the playoffs?
Well, I'm going to go back to the beginning of the season again. And I had Edmonton finishing 1st, Toronto finishing 2nd, Calgary finishing 3rd, closely with Winnipeg right behind them. That's what I had at the very beginning. So I think I should stick with that, just because, you start flopping around and you look at, you look like you don't know what you're talking about, which is actually the case, but we try and hide it as best as we can. My take on it is at this stage right now, I'm going to stick with what I said at the beginning of the year because I have no idea. As it stands right now, it really seems that we were starting to make sense of the teams who were contenders and weren't contenders, and all of a sudden that's just not where we're at anymore. It seems like all the teams outside of Ottawa are like piranhas in the water going after the meat at this moment. Everyone seems to be the best version of themselves. I can't rule out Calgary because I don't know what they are now that Sutter is in there. They look like they've figured things out. Montreal looks like a team that has not quite hit their stride, but has potential to do so on some nights and not other nights. They can't find consistency, but if they do, we've seen what can happen when they do. The Jets are getting their first dose of trying to figure things out this season, and this coming week. I mean, if we were all talking a week from now, the Jets are either going to be, in my mind, this week going to be the team that puts that playoff line behind them and then jockeys for position in the top three. But if things don't go well this week, they're going to be right in the heart of falling out of that. So, I mean, I'm fascinated by the way that things are shaping up right now. It's so much fun watching this. The idea of every game being worth 4 points is really coming to roost right now at this moment of the season, and it's making for fabulously fun hockey to watch. I don't want the North Division back. I may be in the minority there. I want to go back to the way things were, and where you're jumping around and watching your team go play Florida on one night and Columbus on the next night. But this division is giving a certain level of joy this year, and I think that joy is maximized at this moment right now.
So, Sean Reynolds, you should be a politician. Who's your fourth team?
It's Calgary.
Well, I'll go with what I went in the beginning.
Calgary.
Yeah, Calgary, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Toronto is what I went with in the beginning of the year.
I'm teasing. In the time we have left, 90 seconds, Ken, the Renny and Kenny show, Kenny and Renny on Instagram. You guys go live before every game, intermissions for the Jets. Give us a plug and how people can follow it.
Go ahead, Sean. After calling me a flip-flopper, I'll let Sean have the last word here.
Well, we do our Instagrams before the game. Afterwards, we go live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And we have a big Friday show where we sit down long form with guests. We've had guys like Chris Johnson, Elliot Friedman, Big Louis DeBrusque was on this past Friday. Best way to follow us is if you go and find Kenny and Renny shows on YouTube. Getting a lot of traction there, a lot of interaction with the audience, which you're doing a great job of, kind of following your model and trying to give, dig a little deeper, get the Sportsnet look into the social media side of things with fans. It seems to be going great right now. It's taken up a lot of our time. Kenny jokes, and it's a joke, but there's a lot of truth to it. We spend a lot more time with each other than we do with our wives, socially distanced, of course, these days, but we're having a blast doing it, and getting to interact with the fans has been a real nice thing to do this season in the absence of getting out and sitting down and having a beer with them at the bar.
It is a lot of work, but it's a heck of a lot of fun. Guys, thanks for getting to the bottom of this stuff today. I appreciate it, and keep it up. We'll chat soon.
Our pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us.
Ken Wiebe and Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet and the Kenny and Renny Show.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.